You go pro in 1997. What was that first fight like for you?
You know, I had my first amateur fight in '97. And the only distinction in Oregon is whether you get paid. It's not quality of opponent or anything like that.
Doesn't
In
matter.
fact, I fought a guy named Trevor Prangley. We rematched in the UFC. So that was the quality of on that same card. You know, there was two other guys that ended up in the UFC as well, but we were known actually as amateur.
That was amateurs back then.
That was amateur back then.
The pro career officially started at what point then?
The professional career, I fought a gentleman named Mayhem Miller, and I believe that was in 2002. I did some fights, but I was still in college. I didn't graduate college till 2001, and I was on a wrestling scholarship there, so I try not to overlap my enthusiasm for MMA with my commitment to the university for wrestling.
And at what point did this all start to seem real to you?
You know, I can't really remember. I'll tell you this. The first time I fought in the UFC was in 2005, which really wasn't all that long ago. It was basically a different world of MMA, but it wasn't that long ago. My pay that night, I've never cashed. I saved the money. I fought a guy named Babalu. And my check was for $100. Pinned it up on my refrigerator. It's still there today.
On the refrigerator?
It's on the refrigerator now.
Just frame it or something.
$100 for fighting Babalu, yeah.
Are you surprised how much the sport's grown over the past half of a decade?
Yeah, I was. I was a huge fan, but some of the visions that Dana put out there, I couldn't see him at the time. You know, looking back, he'd say, no, we're going to do this. And, you know, there was 5 shows a year if you were lucky. He said, we're going to have 26 shows next year. We're going to have 32 after that. We're going to have 50 something. And I said, oh, come on, that can't really happen. Nobody can grow that fast. But sure enough, he surpassed what he said he was going to do. Did
you ever expect to be a mixed martial artist and be able to become a wealthy man?
No, not in fighting. You know, again, I came from a wrestling background. We paid our own way. If you want to enter a tournament, you got to buy the airline tickets. You got to find a couple of guys and go get a hotel and sleeping bag on the floor. You pay to enter the tournament. You know, the whole bit. And that's just the way it was. You jump in a car the very next week and you drive a couple states to get to another tournament. So no, I never got in it for the money. You know, and there doesn't have to be money now. You know, there wasn't money 10 years ago when guys were doing this. You know, Dana White is very generous. He doesn't have to pay the numbers he pays, but he looks at guys as their partners. He says, "Look, you're my partners. Let's go do business." And you know, so that is very nice. But yeah, I'm not into those things. You know, that I give most of my money away. I don't. I live a very humble life, and I don't. I'm not in it for the money. I'm after the accomplishment.
Looking back at your career so far, what's a highlight for you?
Oh, gee, I've had so many good experiences. A highlight would probably be as a fan. You know, I remember the day that Dan Henderson won the Pride Championship. I remember the day that Randy Couture beat Vitor Belfort for the first time. We were scared to death. We didn't want Randy to go fight that guy. You know, Vitor, he was just destroying people. And again, this is way back. Do you remember these days?
Sure,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, you and I do, but a lot of people watching this, you know, this is way back. But that was a huge day. Then Randy came on. He beat Maurice Smith. He won the world championship. You know, those were just exciting times. I remember the first time I saw Marco Huas fight. You know, I thought he was the greatest thing ever. And it just, you know, but most of my good experiences came as a fan. I'd sit back, watch, and see other people succeed or learn something from them or that excitement. When you're actually in there, it's not as pleasant. You know, there's other things riding on it. But I've sure enjoyed seeing guys overcome and reach their goals.
So you win the world title. Will that complete the legacy then?
You know, I don't know. I haven't thought past it. You know, you got to understand, I came from a wrestling background where you know, if you win the world championship, you don't go out and defend it. The world, it's different. You know, the world championships are one specific date. It's a specific event. You've got to win it that day. In fighting, if a guy's a world champion and you beat him, you assume his title. So it's a little bit different. So my mindset is different. I don't want to paint myself into a corner. I'd love to grab that belt and sit down and come up with a new set of goals and move forward from there. But you know, my tunnel vision's on one thing, and if it's only for one night, then it's for one night. But if that one night doesn't happen, then this was all a waste.
How much do you enjoy all of this? Because it seems like entertainment and you being entertaining has become a big part of what Chael Sonnen is, and you're good at it.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, I don't know how much I enjoy it. It doesn't bother me a whole lot. Some guys really hate their media obligations. I really appreciate the media. I appreciate them covering it. And again, it comes back, I think, a lot from competing in the 90s when we didn't have exposure. We lost our ability to be on television. We didn't have commissions and regulation, and we didn't have major media opportunities. Any media you had was a guy with a pad and a pen, and maybe it would appear somewhere on the internet. And now we've got top folks like yourself, beautiful cameras, sitting in a hotel suite. And this was a vision that is really a luxury when you come up the way I did. You know, when you're fighting at the dog park for peanuts and a Coke, and you know, the applause of a crowd. It's different. So more than anything, whether I appreciate it or not, I try to show the media my appreciation for them. And you know, the media is not out there getting rich and becoming fat cats either. They're struggling, but they're in it for the right reasons. They're in it for the same reason that I got in it, because they care.
Thanks for your time, man.
You're very welcome.